Welcome back. It is cold and dark and snowing outside, which is absolutely perfect. I figure we're going to take advantage of this weather. Nice and cozy inside. I'm going to curl up with my next book, and I figured I'd do a little bit of baking before then. I have some bananas that are about to go bad. So let's make some banana bread, stuff it full of chocolate chips because there's no other way to have banana bread than with chocolate. Let's do it. Yeah. I wish you guys could smell what my apartment smells like right now. Oh my gosh, look at it. It's beautiful. It's kind of soft in the middle, which I prefer over it being like too done, but I think it could have used like maybe 5 or 10 more minutes. But I don't care because I like baked goods that are not quite baked all the way. Excellent choice for dinner. I'm going to eat my banana bread. I'm going to read more of my book. It's Friday night. I'm going to relax. It's going to be a good night. The 3.5-star curse is broken. We have found our first 4-star read of the Pulitzer Prize winning category. That is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Not Kingslover, which is how I have been pronouncing her name for many years now. So that's great to know. This book, all the little pictures make sense now. This was a weird but good book. So we follow our main character, whose name is Damon, but his nickname is Demon. That's what everyone calls him. And he lives in Appalachia, Virginia. And it's not a very wealthy area. It's quite the opposite. Most people live in trailer houses. There's not much emphasis put on education. Kind of jobs are scarce. People's grandfathers worked in the coals, and that was kind of known as the good old days. The book follows Demon through the majority of his childhood from about the age of 9 or 10 until about college age. His childhood is not that great. Not that great. It was pretty awful in a lot of ways. I don't want to give anything too major away, but a lot of this happens at the very beginning. Just think of every tragedy that could befall this kid. And that's pretty much what happened. So something happens with his mother, I won't get into. There's an abusive stepfather in the mix. He gets sent off to foster care and gets placed with this family that's pretty much using him to get a check from the government. He runs away, gets taken in by someone definitely better than the last family he was in, but lacking still in a lot of ways. He gets involved with football, and that's really the first time that he feels some sort of worth as a human being. He gets his first girlfriend, goes through kind of the typical middle school, high school dramas, but there's this just added darkness with what's going on with his family life and his past and just the feelings of inequality. The town that he's in is very much a victim of this opioid epidemic, which is a real thing that did happen in parts of Appalachia, where the levels of opioid deaths were like 50% higher than the rest of the country, because a lot of these medicine companies targeted this area. It's also mixed in with the kind of typical coming of age story of that like most kids go through. The book has such an odd contrast though between its dark subject matter versus the POV that it's written in. So we get everything from Demon's point of view, and he is so like unsympathetic almost towards himself. It's just, he's like, well, this is the way things are. In any other case, the main character would be like, oh, this is terrible. I'm never going to get out of here. This is awful. Like, how is this my life? It's a very odd mixture, and I think that keeps the book from feeling too heavy and dark. Like, it definitely feels that way in parts, but if it wasn't for that specific upbeat kind of way that he views the world, I think it would just feel too like soul crushing. The town, the state, this area that he lives in becomes almost a character in itself. They describe how the rest of the world kind of views them as like stupid hillbillies, and how the people there are so much more complicated than the rest of the world views them. And some people really want to leave. Some people can't imagine living anywhere else. Some people purposefully stay to try and improve the area for others around them. And it's just a really good book. I enjoyed it a lot, and it kept me wanting to know like what happens next without it being like, oh gosh, I don't want to read about the next tragedy. I'm really surprised because of how many bad things happen that it never felt that way to me. Books like A Little Life, which I have not read, but I've heard it described as just this like feast of like every imaginable bad thing that can happen happens, and I think that can just get really exhausting, like mentally exhausting. It didn't feel like that for me for this book. It was great. We still have a few books left to read. I was going to start Ironweed, but I found out this is the third book in a series, so I will not be reading this month as planned. I think I'm going to try Trust next, because that one isn't too long, and then I'll save Cavalier and Clay for the very end. That'll be like the home stretch. I've learned 2 lessons from doing this little project. First, book awards, just like every other award, can tend to be really overrated and doesn't exactly speak to the quality of the thing itself. It's all very subjective. We all know this. Second thing, however, is sometimes it will lead you to pick up a book that you otherwise would not have. In this case, I am really glad that it did, because I finished Trust by Hernan Diaz. I never would have picked this book up if I wasn't doing this little project, this specifically trying to read Pulitzer winning books. I had this book before, and I bought it, first of all, because it's a really cool cover, and also because it is a novel by Pulitzer Prize finalist Hernan Diaz. I saw that on the cover. I'm like, oh, well, then it must be good, even though we all know that's not always the case. I did discover these two won the same year. They tied, and they both got the prize, which I did not know was a thing. This, out of all the books I read in this project, I was like, I'm going to struggle with this one so much. It's going to be a 1 or 2 star. I just need to kind of like buckle down and get through it. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I liked this so much more than I thought I was going to. So this book is really unique. It's told in 4 different parts, and each part is like a different type of book. So the first portion of the book, it's like a book within a book. It's a novel, It's about a couple, a man and a woman. He is really well regarded and almost has this like supernatural affinity for playing the stock markets and getting money and knowing when the crash is coming and knowing when to sell and when to buy and when to trade. And it's about him and his wife. And his wife is really interested in reading and the arts and music and invites a lot of poets and composers to their sprawling mansion, gives a lot of money away to charity. But she ends up going crazy and having to be put in this kind of insane asylum, getting electroshock therapy because her husband made so much money off the stock market crash. While everyone else was losing everything, he pulled in so much money and she feels so guilty about it, and that kind of drives her insane. The two names in the book don't match the rest of the story, so it's very clearly based on a real couple, but there was some sort of like, we have to cloud the waters just enough so that we don't get like sued for libel type of thing. The second portion of the book consists of snippets of a rough copy of an autobiography of a man named Andrew Bevel. It really quickly becomes apparent that the finance man that's how I'm going to describe him. The finance man described in the first portion of the book is based on Andrew Bevel. The third portion of the book is a memoir by a woman who was tasked with helping Andrew write his autobiography. And the final portion is diary entries by Andrew's wife. And each layer of the book kind of peels back a little bit more of the truth of the thing. And it's really interesting. Like, the pace is great, how it keeps revealing things and wanting you to know, well, is this true? Is this not true? And the book is really about how money can help you craft a different reality of the world. Andrew wants to leave a very specific legacy, and he wants his wife, who has passed away, to be thought of in a very specific way that isn't challenging to him. And so as you read through different portions of the book, you kind of find out, well, did his wife actually go crazy? Was she this kind of weak, mindless creature? Was she actually really intelligent? And it's just fascinating, actually. It really makes you think of how many women in history have had their achievements erased or kind of plagiarized by their husbands because it wasn't the thing for women to be, academically involved or to invent things, or even like, it made me think of that painter. I can't remember her name, but she drew like the Big Eyes paintings. And I think it was like 20 years her husband took credit and said that he was the artist. And it finally came out that he had been lying all this time and she was actually the artist. It just makes you think of our reality, or the people we admire could be so fabricated and so fake, and how much power and influence money can give you over like the memory of a person and how they're thought of years after they've died. It was written really well. It was really beautiful. It was not at all boring and dry as I imagined it to be. So this is another 4 stars. So we ended with 2 4-star books. We got what did I rate you? Not very high. I think this was a 3.5. 3.5 DNF. This one was the 3rd book in a series. I can't read that. I have technically 2 more to read. I started this one. I got like 2 chapters through. But honestly, I just kind of want to be done with this challenge. I want to move on to other things. I just don't really feel like reading this right now, and I don't want to force myself and dislike it because of that. So I'm gonna be done. I'm ending this month with a bang though. I'm so glad I read these two. These were so good. And even the other ones, like I'm glad I read them even if I wasn't crazy about them. So I'm going to go ice skating with some friends before it gets too warm and the ice is all gone. So I will catch you guys next month, next week, whenever I start reading again. Bye.